From the Wasted in America release, that is Love Hate. Don't fuck with me, Chris. And a guy that we definitely don't want to be fucking with is our good friend, Jizzy Pearl. Welcome back to the show there, Jizzy.
Hey, man. How are you?
We're good. I know it was kind of abrupt bringing you on the air, but you're a man with no loss of words.
Yeah. So how you guys doing? Are you freezing out there?
Well, we were earlier this week, but we're into the 20s now, so it's a heat wave.
Yeah, it's hot.
It's balmy.
So, Jizzy, I got to tell you up front, you had the best promotional post I think I've ever seen for an appearance on the CMS with your Facebook post today. With your post of, if you aren't too fucked up pretending you're buying gear at NAMM, then listen.
Well, yeah. I mean, everybody gets all hopped up about NAMM, and you guys have been there. It's just a big fucking party.
Right, sure.
I mean, incidentally, it's all about partying and gear second.
Right. Definitely, man. Well, dude, you're obviously getting ready to do some partying on the road with Love Hate, man. First time in eons and eons that you've been out on this coast with Love Hate, man. What's going on that brought you back onto the road and putting the band back together, I guess?
I don't know. It was just one of those things. I got myself a good agent that isn't going to rip me off, and I thought, why not do some shows? And then he got M3 for me, and so what we're going to try and do is a couple of festivals here and there. I got this UK trip coming up, but I try to do that every year. But the festivals are kind of a new thing for us, for the band anyway. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Sure. And you're doing, as I understand it, and I'm assuming that you're doing what, like a week or two out here on like the East Coast, Midwest, like a little short run out here, right?
Yeah, actually we're playing the Ripper Owens.
Yeah, I know that bastard outbid me, son of a bitch.
Oh, ouch.
It's all good. Hey, as far as I'm concerned, it means I only got to give you $20 instead of a couple of thousand, so I'm good, man. Nice.
You're a glass half full kind of guy.
Oh, absolutely, man. No, I'll definitely be there. I definitely wanted to bring the show. That was my big concern, man. That's why I reached out to you during the week, was because I just wanted to make sure it hit my area, man. I didn't care if I had to pay for it. Last time I got to see Love Hate was in 1992, maybe, when you guys played the Flashes Concert Club in Cleveland.
Yeah, in the what do you call it? The
Flats.
The river.
The Flats.
Yeah, Flats. Excuse me, I forgot.
Yeah, but I mean that was I think that was the last time you were here, wasn't it, in Cleveland?
Oh, I don't know. I've come there in different incarnations and in different lives and in different guises. So it's hard to say it's all lost in the mists of time.
Sure. Well, man. Obviously, dude. With taking the band back out on the road, does that lead you to want to do anything creatively with Love Hate, or is this just kind of your live thing to revisit the old days?
Yeah, I'm going to do a Kickstarter campaign.
There you go.
Well, Jizzy, who do you have playing with you in the band?
I got Robbie Crane on bass. My old sidekick in arms from the Rat. And we got Kerry Kelly on guitar. I mean, he's obviously played in a bunch of great bands. And this guy, Matt Starr, who's a drummer, he plays with Ace Frehley. The guy's amazing. I mean, he basically came into rehearsal and had all the songs down in one rehearsal. I mean, and for, the Love Hate material, that's a pretty cool thing.
Sure. Well, obviously, through the annals of time, you being the voice of Love Hate. I mean, obviously, this is not the Love Hate lineup that made the records, but you bring the music of Love Hate. And how do you view what's going on right now with some of your contemporaries like Jeff Tate with his Queensryche lineup? With it's just basically the voice of Queensryche, and you, of course, the voice of Love Hate, and Jack Russell, the voice of Great White. I mean, what's your view?
It sounds like we should all do a gig together.
Yeah, well, what's your thoughts on that, though? I mean, I would never disparage a guy to go out there and be able to make a living on his craft. But, the purists out there look at that, go, oh, man, this isn't Love Hate. This isn't Great White. This isn't Queensryche.
You know what, dude? I totally get that, and I have tried to do Love Hate reunions, and they usually last about 2 gigs before the fists start flying.
Well, give us, and I don't necessarily want you to be very specific because I'm sure it's personal, but what usually triggers something like that to where you can't put whatever differences you have aside to go out there and create your live magic, as it were? What seems to be the dysfunction there?
Well, a couple of different things. And one of them is that people have lives, and they're not the same people that they were in the 90s. They have wives and kids and mortgages, and it's not easy for people to just kind of drop everything and jump on the Gypsy Caravan and tour again. That's one of the big things. It is a financial situation to where people just can't drop everything. They have structure in their lives as opposed to, when we were younger and we could just kind of get up and do whatever we wanted, and someone offered us a tour and we could just, fuck yeah, let's go.
And that causes a fight?
In brief, 2007, that was the last time I tried to get the reunion together, and we did this disastrous UK run, and we basically were going to go home after 2 shows.
Wow.
And because people brought their wives on the road, that's kind of one of the things that I was accommodating towards to the guys, is that they could bring their wives on tour with us. And when that happens, it can be, sometimes it blurs the line between business and personal, and drama can rear its ugly head. And basically in 2007, we went to the UK, and 2 gigs in, the fighting started, and one of the wives jumped in and started Yoko Onoing, and that was it. That was it. Low blows were exchanged, and it basically was over. And I remember sitting in the van. This is me, the asshole. I'm sitting in the van going, all right, I've paid for my airline ticket already, and I've paid for the T-shirts, so I didn't make any money, but I didn't lose any money. So what I'll do is I'll just camp somewhere for 4 days and then fly home. And we ended up finishing the show, but really no one spoke to each other for the rest of the time, and it was shitty. And then at the end of the tour, apparently it always ends up being my fault for some reason. I don't know why, but that was 2007, and the drummer doesn't talk to me, hasn't spoken to me since. And it's just, that's how it is.
Sure. Well, Jizzy, one of the things we like on the show, outside of Love Hate, are the books. And clearly, you've gone from being somebody that was scribbling on a bus to, a fairly accomplished writer. Where do you stand with the writing? I know at some point you were talking about screenplays, and you were talking about maybe a 4th book. What's going on with the writing right now?
Not much. I'm just kind of with the sort of the resurrection of the love-hate thing, I've been kind of diving into that, and I mean, I did put my books on the ebook format. That was, I guess, last year.
Right.
And so they're available on Amazon, and people can download them and stuff like that. And some people prefer the paper books. I get it, but they are out there for all to see. And I did write a screenplay a couple of years ago, and I was working with a company, and it just didn't work out. I ended up being one of 10 million screenplays sitting in a drawer somewhere in Hollywood.
Sure. When you do a screenplay like that, and this is just, I am writing a book, and I've written a book before, so I understand the process that goes into all that, and more or less the literary process. Writing it is easy, and that's what people don't realize. If you know how to write, then writing is easy. It's getting it out there that is difficult unless you do it yourself. What I'm curious about is when you put in that kind of time to write a screenplay, and obviously you spend so much time crafting it, and I don't know if what you were writing was fictional, mine isn't, but as a fictional writer, you have to spend so much time developing a character into the screenplay without, overly writing it to develop it. You just got to kind of let, in 30 seconds, people figure out who each character is. My question is, when you've spent that kind of time and that much effort putting a screenplay together, and it doesn't get picked up in like a Hollywood, as an example, do you take it to the other coast and try again, on the play circuit or on the, in the New York circuit to try and get some of the LA or the New York producers to look at it, or do you just say wasn't good enough and move on?
Wasn't good enough and move on.
Yeah, you're stronger than me, dude.
I spent time on it. I was working with a specific production company that has made a lot of big movies and stuff, and they worked with me, and I don't know, it's just, it's kind of a young man's game, kind of like music. I sometimes see these bands starting out, and they're very young, and I remember I had that same hunger when I was in my 20s when we were in love-hate. It was us against the world, and we were poor, but we were, we had our music, and I totally get that vibe, but that was back when there was record companies and tour support and radio and records, and people bought records, and there was a whole machine that it isn't like that now. And so my answer is I don't know how bands get signed. I don't know how they do it these days. You know what I mean?
Sure, definitely. And even when they are signed, what does it really mean? I mean, your last signed incarnation, I guess, would have been with LA Guns. And you did what I think was a kick-ass record, the live record, and they re-released Shrinking Violet for you as well. But compared to the old days, it had to just not even seem like you were in the same business, right?
Well, you're not. I mean, because there is no business. Basically, the only way to sell records these days for bands like us is on the road as merch, really. And then people will buy your record, your CD, but record stores, I don't know, do they even exist anymore? I'm just saying that it's the technology has changed so rapidly that musicians, that's how this Kickstarter thing started, I guess. Join us, making music and give us money, and we'll make a CD, and I don't know. I don't care for it.
Sure. Well, you obviously recorded a couple solo discs over the last 6 has it been 7 years already since your first one? That was kind of a do-it-yourself deal.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you know the figure-wise how many CDs or downloads that you sold of, say?
I really don't. I mean, I would have to look back and remember, but but I think my first record came out, I don't know, 2003 or something. That's when people still bought them, you know. And then my Vegas record came out in 2005, and it was just kind of starting with all the sites and stuff, and the downloading, and I don't know, you know, it's a bummer, because bands that want to make music, you know, and they do it themselves and they put their own money into it, I don't know, they don't get their money back.
Sure.
At least.
Well, do you currently still write music? Do you have anything in the can that you'd like to, you know, put on, you know, perform or record, or have you just is that sort of like something you've put to the side for the time being?
No, I have music. It's funny technology. I record on my iPhone.
Sure.
They have these 8-track machines that you can basically play guitar and sing into your phone, and so yeah, all my songs are on the phone. No, I still do all that stuff, dude. I still play. I play here in Vegas. I have a solo band, and I'm actually playing stuff off my solo records now. You know, myself playing guitar and singing as well. And so, yeah, I have the luxury of being able to play music when I want and write music when I want, and I don't have to take Love Hate on the road and beat the shit out of myself 8 months a year in a van. And that's a blessing. That's a blessing.
Sure. Well, Jizzy, you've been a part of, you know, doing cover CDs, and Chris and I have had this discussion on the Classic Metal Show probably over the last 4 to 6 weeks. It pops up now and again because it seems like cover CDs and cover songs, there seems to be more and more of them all the time. And you've been around the business a while. What is what drives certain labels, say like a Cleopatra or somebody, to have a guy like you come in and do a cover? Where is the financial benefit in doing cover CDs? Because we have asked this question to several.
Figured it out.
Where is it? Where's the financial benefit?
You know what, dude? People buy them.
Where?
I thought that the same thing myself, because I've done a bunch of them, but that was years ago. That was in the past. I don't know if they buy them anymore, but they used to buy them. And I thought, you know, basically those things are so weird because you don't ever meet anybody that you're playing the song with. It's structured that you just go in and you sing to a track, and you know, Frankie Banali was on that drum track, or George Lynch was on this guitar track, and your job is to come in and lay a vocal over them. So it's a little weird at first, but I don't know. I thought the same thing, but people buy them because I've signed 1 million of them.
Okay.
Nice. Do you ever listen back to them, and do you ever regret doing them? Like, I don't know, the Journey one or whatever?
That one comes to mind, does it?
Yeah. Well, you want the truth? Not because of you, but because of Mark Torian's splendid version of Faithfully, to be honest.
God, no, I try. You know what? I tried to do the Journey version, and I probably wasn't suited for that. But I gave it a go, and I took it seriously, and I took my lumps for that. But yeah, there's certain records that aren't good, and there's certain records that I think the Def Leppard one comes to mind. I think I did a good Def Leppard. It really boils down to how well your voice sounds, you know, to the music, and if it sounds, you know, if you sound like the guy in Def Leppard or the Scorpions, then I think it's probably good. If you don't, you know, if you're struggling to hit the notes, then maybe you shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Sure, definitely. Well, Jizzy, you said earlier you're going back to the UK. You seem to do that, you know, once a year or so. What is it about the UK that is not happening here?
I don't know. I don't know. It's, you know, that's, people have asked me that for 20 years. We broke over there in the UK originally with the Blackout record. We got a lot of good press. We got Best Record of the Year from a couple of the Metal Hammer magazines and stuff like that. And I don't know, you know, maybe because we weren't so cookie cutter, leather pants, you know, hair flipping type thing. You know, the States sometimes goes for the lowest common denominator kind of rock. I mean, back then anyway. And we were a little bit different. We had the dope song with the bass line, and we had a couple of different twists and turns. And anyway, the British thought we were great, and so, and you know, we appreciated that. And so I try and go back, you know, at least once a year. And the fans are very loyal, and they're very cool, and we've all grown up together, you know.
Sure. Definitely. I just want to go back, because I don't think I've ever asked you this, but I remember when the band came out, and I was living out in California at the time. I was out in Monterey area. So, you know, I got to see you a few times I think it was at the Omni or maybe the Stone or one of those places, several times. And then I remember when you did the two big tours that I think were the two biggest tours that you guys did, one with Dio and one with AC/DC. And I always thought that was kind of a weird mismatch for you, not because you couldn't hang with those bands, but just because you guys were such a party band. And, well, with Dio's not a party band. And with AC/DC, yeah, they're a party band, but they weren't as
Dio's
heavy.
a party band off stage.
Well, believe me, I know that. I've definitely been with those guys in the offset. But you know what I'm saying. I mean, when Dio's on stage, especially in 1990, it's all, you know, dragons and mystical stuff and, you know, sword fighting and tombstones and everything. And then you guys are just partying. And even with AC/DC just had such a built-in following that you guys really never had a real clear-cut chance, it seemed like to me. Just looking back, do you think that those maybe were not the best tours for Love Hate to succeed in?
Well, I don't know if they were the best tours, but they were the biggest tours, and we were lucky to be on them. Both bands, Dio more so at the time, the audience was at first totally adversarial to us, especially on the Dio tour. He was playing sheds back then, so he was still selling, you know, huge. And yeah, Dio's crowd hated us, boy. They were it was like being in a punk concert, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But AC/DC, you know, it was a little bit different because I think the AC/DC audience kind of hates every opener, you know what I mean? And it is a kind of a combat situation, and I thought that we fared pretty well. I mean, there were only a couple of shows. I think the Cow Palace in San Francisco was one of the only shows where people were a little shitty. And they were even shitty to AC/DC. I mean, they threw a shoe and hit Brian Johnson in the head, and he almost walked off stage.
Yeah, I was at that show. That was in 91. I was at that show. It wasn't me, I swear.
But you know what I mean? The thing is it was such a different time, you know, when someone offers you a gig like that, and there's so many bands trying to get on so few tours, big tours, AC/DC, for example, you know, you go, and you know, you put your big boy pants on, and if people throw shit at you, for example, when we were playing in 92 with Ozzy in Europe, the Berlin Wall had come down, and basically a lot of the shows were attended by East European people who had never been able to see Ozzy because he, you know what I mean, because of the Soviet thing.
Right.
And I remember Berlin was like being at war because there were thousands of people there, and they did not want to see us, trust me. And the loogies and the shoes and the bricks and the bottles, were flying. It was like the 1992 L.A. riots, man. And I was Reginald Denny.
Nice. Wow.
And but you know what? We got through it. And even Ozzy and his people after the show, they were kind of patting us on the back, going, you know, you guys got balls. You guys got balls. A smaller band would have started crying like pussies and ran off stage, but you guys hung in there. So
that's cool. Well, Jizzy, what do you got going on here? Obviously, you mentioned that you're going to go over to Europe, and you got the M3 thing. Is just the touring something you got going on, or did we skip over something here?
No, we're getting some tours together with the guys, and we're going to play. And that's for me. That's all I need right now. I mean, I got music. If I wanna go to a friend's studio and lay down some tracks, you know, I will. And you know, if someone offers me a record deal, you know, then I'll probably entertain that idea.
Sure.
But like I said, I'm coming from a different point in my life where I don't have to. For example, when I was in Tracy's L.A. Guns, man, we toured a lot, probably too much. You know, and it burns you out. It burns you out, and it makes you, you know, other than the music, you know, the 9 hours a day of the van and the bad food and eating at Waffle House every day, and it's just it beats the shit out of you.
Sure.
And so you just, you know, it's nice to be able to play music when you want for the right reasons, and not to pay the gas bill, and you know, so that's kind of where I'm coming from right now. It's a comfort zone of play music for the right reasons and not, you know, for the wrong ones.
Right, absolutely. Well, there's something I wanted to ask you, and it's an old story, and I don't want you to beat a dead horse here, but you know
I'll tell a couple of stories. I'm a good storyteller.
Yes, you are. But looking back in your life and your career, and you know, things that have happened, you know, obviously one of the most notorious things is the cross on the Hollywood sign. And looking back, it's been almost 20 years, right? It's been 20 years now that you did.
20 years.
Yeah, that you did.
20 years ago tonight.
Yeah. Looking back at that, what is your thoughts and recollection of that? Because when I look at that, you know, I lived out in Southern California for a lot of years, and looking back at that, it's almost like it was so surreal, like it never even happened. Since you're the guy who was there, what is your thoughts and recollection looking back at your life and, you know, an event like that happening?
It's hard to at the time. I mean, this was 20 years ago. We were in a situation with our record company. There was some drama going on, and when we had talked about doing this thing, this Hollywood sign thing, you know, I was weighing the danger, because we went up there to reconnoiter the place. I mean, it's harder to get up there now, but back then, you know, there were you could hike up there and check it out. And I'm looking at this 60-foot letter, and I'm just going, fuck. You know, this is dangerous. I mean, this could, people have jumped to their death, you know, from the Hollywood sign, and I didn't want to be, you know, one of them. But I was weighing the situation, and I thought, you know what? If this will fucking kick Columbia in the ass, and because there was a couple of misadventures with the record label. They had picked the wrong single, and when they pick the wrong single and they make a video and it doesn't do well, of course it's your fault. It's always your fault when things don't, you know, when the record doesn't sell, it's your fault. If something else happens, it's your fault. So it was our fault. And I was just going, well, you know, you picked it. But I thought to myself, fuck it. You know what I mean? I'm going to literally take a leap of faith here with this crucifix, and we're gonna put on a show for the entire Los Angeles basin, and maybe it'll turn things around. Maybe the rock gods will bestow another record on us from Sony or something. And it didn't happen that way. I just got arrested and had to do community service. But in retrospect, I mean, it was one of those things. I never did get on one of those VH1 100 craziest things.
Yeah,
and that was kind of shitty, I thought, because, I see those shows like everyone else does. And Cyndi Lauper, a bird shits on her head, and that makes the top 100. I thought, honestly, I mean, I'm being honest here. I just thought, how many people have crucified themselves on the Hollywood sign? One, uno, and I didn't even place.
Yeah, that is pretty bizarre when you think about that.
Yeah, it's fucked. I want to circulate a petition and do something about this. Right, my congressman.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
yeah,
Jizzy.
In retrospect, though, it was what was weird about it was that we did the stunt, we did the thing, and then the LA riots happened. I mean, pretty much right after that.
Right.
And that was weirder than me hanging on the sign. Was me watching television and seeing stores that I would frequent being emptied out and nobody doing anything. And the live television feed was, I'm watching these people carry sofas out and balancing them on a Volkswagen Beetle. I mean, it was like Willy Wonka. That was surreal. Me hanging on the sign was eccentric, but the LA riots was fucking surreal, dude. And nobody was doing anything. And Joey, my drummer, lived across the street. He had a condo across the street. And I went over there, and he's up on the roof with a shotgun, like Wyatt Earp. And I'm looking at this Jewish kid, from Palos Verdes, California, with a shotgun. What are you doing? You know what I mean? What, you gonna hold them all off, are you, Sheriff? It just was, but it was just kind of funny. It was kind of funny, and it was sad at the same time, because you were embarrassed for the city you lived in, and the looting, and then there was martial law, and then it was over. But I don't know. It was pretty weird. I think that was more surreal than me doing my little stunt.
Sure. Well, Jizzy, let me ask you a question that you probably are going to answer in the same third-party way that we would, because we don't know. Maybe you know because you know the players, even though I'm sure you don't know the business of it. Your old boys in LA Guns, they've gone through 2 guitarists in the last 30 days. One of them, neither one of those 2 guitarists is named Tracy. Why is Tracy not getting back with them at this point, if you had to guess? Or if you know?
Well, because they don't want him back.
You think that's what it is?
I think that's the short answer. I mean, and I'm not being negative towards either party. I'm just saying that, I think that they make the money they make, and they did a reunion too in '98 when I think I got fired in '99, and they got all the originals back, and they made a little bit of a wave for a while, and then it was over. I just think that they're at a point in their life where, and I'm sure there's control issues also, that they like being able to call the shots, and that's it. I mean, it's as simple as that. I don't think it's hatred. I just think it's, how much more money are we going to get with original members?
Sure. We get that. We get it. All right, Jizzo. Well, we're always glad to have you here on the Classic Metal Show. And, obviously with social media being what it is, people can find you out there. So where can people find you?
On the Book of Face, just like everyone else.
Not me.
Oh, you're not on?
No.
He's the one guy not on.
Wow. You know what? I went off, too, for a while, just because it's silly. It really is.
Thank you.
I sit there sometimes and I scratch my head at people that use Facebook as for sympathy or as a friend. I'm reaching out to this website as a friend. It's not your friend. It's a fucking website. It's not your friend. It has no feelings. It's just tracking you. I just think that people take Facebook way too seriously. I mean, these days, for a band and for a musician, it's a total necessity. Reverb Nation, same thing. You know what I mean? That's why people don't need websites anymore. You just get Reverb Nation and Facebook, and you're set, and you can do it yourself. And you don't need a $5,000 website with bells and whistles. I mean, it's killer in that respect. But do I really want to know that you had hot chocolate at 8 o'clock this morning?
Thank you, Jizzy. Thank you for all those words. You've proved my point.
No, honestly, it's just, and people get so defensive when you call them on it. Go, don't you have a real friend you can call instead of, calling all of us and scheduling and writing a blog? It's just, I think it's, once again, it's this weird thing of when people are using their phones to watch a concert or the pads, or that's even weirder. When you're gigging and you look down and you see these square aluminum pads, and you don't even see the face of the guy that's holding it. I just think it's so weird. I mean, why? You're there to watch a live show. I mean, ostensibly, you're there to watch a show. Watch the live show. Immerse yourself in the experience of the live music, because live music is the only thing that hasn't changed. You know what I mean? And it's precious. And so why are you spending so much energy with the phone and the pad, and you're not really enjoying the show? What are you taping it for? So you can enjoy it later at home. It's like taking a doggy bag home with you from a restaurant.
Right.
It's odd and it's weird, and it is what it is, and it's never going to go away. And every time I get on stage, I assume I'm YouTubed, and so I try and do my best, make sure my fly's zipped up. It's just, that's the nature of this new technology and our new generation, and us gold guys just got to keep up.
Sure. Well, I agree with the band, and with having one for a band or as an artist or even a radio show like the Classic Metal Show. But me, have no interest in doing the personal thing, so prove my point.
It's a little weird. It's weird because the thing about Facebook that is changed is that, for example, when I first started out, back in the Middle Ages, there was no internet, and so if people wrote you letters, fan letters. Remember fan clubs? I mean, you would get actual letters, and then the internet started, and people started those crummy GeoCity websites. Remember that shit?
Yeah, GeoCities.
And then it got. But the thing about Facebook, but there was still that separation, is what I'm saying. Is that nowadays with Facebook, people want immediate answers. They want to know, and they want to know right now. And it's taken, I don't know, for me personally, when I used to listen to Led Zeppelin, the visual, my imagination made Led Zeppelin so much bigger than they probably really were, but my imagination, they were gods, you know, and you know, still are to a certain extent. But nowadays, people just kind of chip away at the whole musical rock star mystique and just talk shit about everybody. Everybody sucks, and the new record sucks, and isn't he fat, and oh, his hair's falling out. Well, you know, shit happens, bro. You know, we're in our 50s. I mean, what the fuck?
Right.
Well, I'll just say to you, Jizzy, I post on Facebook 8 to 10 times a day, and I can't get enough of my friend Facebook.
Well, I'm on it too, bro. I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm not being an elitist about this at all. I'm totally on it too, you know, and posting pictures of my new puppy, like a you know, like a weirdo puppy dog owner. You know, that's how it is. You get sucked into it, man, because people are, I don't know, just don't get me started on this whole thing.
All right, Jizzy. Well, it's always...
Anyway, I just want to say, hey, I want to say thanks to you guys, and I'll see you guys in May.
Absolutely, twice.
When we stop by. And that M3 thing, yeah, come early, dude. We're playing the lunch set, as far as I know.
Well, I'm coming to both shows, Jizzy, so I can't wait. So it'll be a fun week of love-hate for me, so all good.
Yeah, and trust me, the music has not suffered at all, dude. We are just as good as we ever was, and the music is fucking timeless, bro. It is. I gotta say that Blackout in the Red Room, that music stands up today, 23 years later, just as much as it did back then. Even maybe more so, because it's appreciated perhaps a little bit more than it was back then. So yeah, I mean, it's a kick-ass situation, and I'm loving it.
Sure.
Well, can I make one request that I know you probably don't play because you didn't write it, Skid did, but if you would play one song, it would be Wish I Had More Time, which I've never seen live, would die to see live. You got to play that at one of these two shows.
That was off that one record that
hates, I know. I know you hate Layla, the album, but come on, dude. You did a great performance on it.
Let me tell you, dude, that was the 90s. That was the mid-90s when it was so uncool to be in a Sunset Strip band, you know.
Right.
I mean, the whole mid-90s, I went fully Vampire Lestat.
Nice.
You know what I mean? I sat in a coffin for about 3 years and just weathered the storm, and then all of a sudden, Rock Never Stops began, and it was cool to play this kind of music again. So, God, as long as it stays cool, I guess we can all have jobs.
I hear you.
All right, Jizzy. Well, obviously you're going to be out on tour, you know, come the spring and do some shows on the East Coast and, you know, in Europe and whatnot. And Chris and I, we're going to make the pilgrimage over to Maryland and come see you. So that should be good. So reach out to Jizzy out there at the old Facebook. You won't be hearing from me though, Jiz. I'm sorry to tell you, but
well, but your show is on Facebook.
Yes, but Chris maintains that. You know, a personal Facebook isn't enough for Chris. He had to make one for the show so he could reach out on that one too.
Of course.
Why don't you? If you were Jizzy, I mean, you know, there's 3 Jizzy Pearls on Facebook. I have what you call it, imposter impersonators.
Jesus Christ.
I swear to God that there's imposter impersonators, and they have a friends list, and it's fucking creepy.
Nice.
Jeez, oh man, is it? And do they pretend that they're you and say, "Yeah, I just played at whatever club this week, and man, it was kick ass"?
I don't know, but they won't add me as a friend. That's kind of odd. I mean, when you're not able to add yourself,
right?
You know,
nice.
It's you know, think how bad. It's just funny, but think how bad really, really famous people have it, where they just get fucked with 23 hours a day. Me, it's all fun and games.
Sure.
Okay, man.
All right,
good.
Jizzy. Well,
I'll,
since you mentioned the Blackout and the Red Room album, let's close the interview with something from that. Why don't you pick us a tune and maybe tell us a story about it?
Fuck. Well, a lot of the songs, Fuel to Run, One More Round, even Blackout itself, a lot of these songs were taken from this movie called Barfly that we discovered in the 80s, and it's got Mickey Rourke in it as Bukowski, and so we used to watch that movie all the time because it was something about it, the romantic, bohemian, alcoholic that is a total fuck-up, but he kind of wins in the end, you know, and it gave us hope. So a lot of the songs are written from that movie, and literally lyrics from Blackout are taken verbatim from dialogue in the movie. So why don't you just play One More Round?
Okay, sounds good. All right, we'll go out and check out Love Hate this summer if they're coming to a town near you, and say hello to Jizzy on the Facebook and all that good stuff. And let's close out the interview with One More Round. So here it is. It's Love Hate exclusively here
On your classic metal show.